Good morning, everyone. The sun is out. This morning I got up, like last Sunday, and I said, look, the sun is up.
Yes.
So,
because it was supposed to rain today.
Yes, it was.
And the sun is out.
You betcha.
Beautiful
Absolutely. It's a bit windy, but that's okay because we're looking at the other angle of things, and it is nice and sunny. We are so glad you joined us here this beautiful Sunday morning. My name is Geoff.
I'm Helen.
And we're coming to you live from the Estevan Church of God, 1920 Wellick Road, in our beautiful studio.
Yes, and we are excited for our talk this morning.
We've been embarking on a series, 5 keys to overcoming whatever life throws at you.
And you know what? I actually love the song that we sang this morning.
Yes.
Just champion, because God is an overcoming God. He has championed a way for us.
Yes.
You know, and we want to walk that journey with you to overcoming.
And one of the... Again, we talked about how this series that we're embarking on is not a quick fix. It is something that we're building. And you said something last week that I think is very important, that we need to remind ourselves as we go through key number 1 this morning. And if you haven't listened to our introduction, I would strongly encourage you to listen to the introduction that we did last Wednesday, because that is the foundation of what we're building on. And the thing I mentioned to you last week as well is each of these sessions that we're going to be taping are building on the other one, and it's going to be difficult if you haven't listened to the introduction to jump in on this one, because one is the foundation. It's an introduction to where we're going, why it's important for us to cover this, why we want to tackle this, because and then we start building on each one of them. And one of the things that I want to remind all of us too, and Helen's going to do a lot more talking this time, because we are going to talk. We're going to talk about some very, very practical things this morning. Things that aren't not going to be difficult, but are going to require something from us. And so the introduction was Wednesday, and then we're going to jump right into it. And we call it a 5-day challenge, or a 5-session challenge. How to overcome obstacles in your life. And we mentioned that all of us face difficulties, and one of the things that we want to remind you, and we keep reminding ourselves, it is normal to go through difficulties. It is normal to go through difficult times in our life where we have to learn to navigate. What isn't normal is us avoiding them, because if we want to grow, if we want to get into the next chapter of our life, we have to learn to push through them and have them not destroy us, but have them become a stepping stone.
Some of the stuff that life throws us at, it makes us go in and realize, my building's not handling this very well. Like, there's stuff shaking. So then we have to actually see, what are some of our root issues? You know, what are some of my big things that I need to overcome, right?
Because all of us have something to overcome.
Yeah.
And it's not
absolutely.
about they have it easy and I don't have it easy.
Yeah.
Everybody has to work through. And what we're going to give you these next several weeks is just simply tools that you can put in your toolbox that can help you rethink the way we go through stuff.
Yeah.
It gives you tools to be able to strategize so that you can navigate through these things, because I believe wholeheartedly that God has given us everything we need that we can succeed not only now, in the journey, the things that we face that we can't control. Some things we can control, but I believe that God has equipped us with the necessary tools, and sometimes our testimony is someone else's breakthrough. And we want to look at it this way because we don't have the answers. We're learning. We've been given some tools and we've seen some breakthrough in our life, and in order for that, we want to pass those on.
Yeah, I think first, disclaimer, we're going to say it every time. There's remember
absolutely.
the disclaimer note at the bottom. It's not a quick fix.
Right.
This is not a quick fix. We are building a construction project. We are rebuilding some things in our life and relaying the foundation. And you know what I love, honey? The Word of God has a lot of characters in there, real life characters that we can take from. Like, this is an overcoming story.
Yes.
So many overcoming stories of breakthrough.
I like the way you put that, overcoming stories, because sometimes, depending on the glasses we see the Bible in, we can see all kinds of negative things and pushback things and stuff. But when we change our view of looking at it, we begin to see stories of normal people. We've used the word uncut and real because that's who they were. These were not ideal characters. They had issues. They were working through stuff. They were struggling. They made bad choices. They outright blew their tires and sat on the side of the road. And they are stories for us to have hope and to be able to recognize that we can get through.
Yeah. And I just, when you're seeing the picture of building a new foundation, sometimes we have this image of this home that we want, and it's beautiful, and we build this beautiful home, and it's everything we want in there. And all of a sudden, crap hits the fan, and a storm comes, and your home just crashes because you didn't build a foundation. So that's what we want to do in key number 1. We want to lay a foundation on how to keep our house. The purpose of a foundation is to keep it solid, firm, and immovable when the storms come.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to do.
Again, I put a little note here again that we want to remind you why we're doing this is because we know that you can enjoy the best life that God has for you. We believe that. And we know God's designed us to live a life of fullness, of what word? I'm lost for words. Fullness and joy and being able to navigate through life in a way that elevates us, that we rise above things and rather beneath things. And so we want to jump right in here. We said we wanted you to go through Luke chapter 5 because we recognize that all the keys are found in Luke chapter 5. And if you don't know what the keys are, we're going to bring them out because this is the fun part of dissecting things and working through, because
this is a rebuilding process.
Yes, the end goal is always freedom, hope, restoration, and renewal.
Yes.
And I believe we understand these keys. Again, it is a process. We have to understand it's a process. There's no quick fixes. And I want to share with you an illustration or story or an example from my own life how I learned to do that. And so we want to look at key number 1.
Yes.
And again, so why we're doing this is because we want you to be free. We want you to live your life to the fullest. There's a story in Luke chapter 5, and we've had a joy of going through it several times.
Been so fun.
There's several key stories in Luke chapter 5, and in that chapter, in each story, each account speaks something very clearly about circumstances. If you've gone through Luke chapter 5, you will notice that there are problems. or there was an opportunity for discouragement, opportunity for despair. There was a wall that they came up against.
Yeah.
There was a situation that seemed hopeless. And so we want to dive into that. We're not going to read the whole chapter. We're just going to bring some truths out, and then we're going to unleash the key that we see. So first of all, in Luke chapter 5, when we walk through this, the first encounter we had with trouble was Peter was fishing all night.
Yeah. Can I say something? Some of us, if we look in history and just read some stories about Peter, his character was a little bit rough around the edges. Like, he was kind of a raw deal kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like, just off the cuff. He might have needed to take some anger management classes or something like that.
No
Maybe
doubt.
Watch Angry Birds. That has a
That's
few
right,
good
Angry
things
Birds.
in there. But Peter was quite a character. Like, he was a pusher. He didn't care what you thought. He just said his opinion, kind of his character.
That's right,
He was a little bit like that. And I love that because he was a real guy facing some real issues. And I love what we're going to bring out there because he had to relay some foundations in his life. But
So Luke chapter 5, we have the story of Peter, and I'll give you a little bit of a backdrop because it's important for context. It tells us in verse 5 or verse 6 that he'd been fishing all night.
Yeah.
You have to understand, for Peter, that was his livelihood. For Peter, that was his income.
Yeah.
That was what defined who he was before he met Jesus.
Yes.
That was his income. That was his security. That was everything about him, fishing.
And if you know that culture, he was brought up in the church, in the religious
system.
Yes. And those students that weren't quite brilliant enough to become a student of the rabbi, they had to go find a trade. So I bet you Peter had a lot of things he didn't measure up in the church.
Yes, yeah.
He was kind of a failure. He wasn't bright enough, and he probably pushed the boundaries. So they were like, no.
We can't work with him. And
so there was some things going on why he was a fisherman.
So him and his brothers, they take on this whole fishing business, and that's what they did. And whatever we do, life will always throw at us things. No matter what. We can be in the perfect will, the perfect plan, the perfect situation, and there's always something imperfect that's going to rise up because we need that in order to grow. Those things aren't bad in its essence. It's what we do or what they do to us that maybe sometimes is negative. So here Peter was. The Bible tells us in Luke chapter 5 that he was fishing all night. And I want to read just a little bit because I love the words that are chosen to express what's going on. And so Jesus is teaching by the shore, and crowds are gathering. Wherever Jesus was, crowds gathered because they always seen hope. They were getting miracles. Things were always happening. So there was an attraction to Jesus. And so he was at the shore while Peter and his crew were coming back because they had fished all night. It's in the morning. And no doubt they were discouraged. No doubt they were frustrated. No doubt they were thinking like, this just ain't working. This is not working. And so as they were coming in, the crowds are getting larger, and so Jesus asked Peter, could I just sit in your boat? Because when you speak from the water, it echoes better, and people have a better chance. And so Peter said, absolutely. And so Jesus begins to teach from the boat at the shore. And when he teaches, when he is done, he asks Peter a question. And the question is a direct result to the circumstances Peter is in. A direct question. So he says in verse 3, stepping into the boat, verse 3, Jesus asked Simon Peter, the owner, pushed it out into the water and sat in the boat and taught the crowds there. Then verse 4 it says, when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon Peter, this is where Jesus gets right to the heart of the issue. He says, now go out where it's deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish.
Okay.
So Jesus is speaking right to the circumstances, and I want to tell you, that's what he does. He doesn't speak to our circumstances to point out where we've gotten wrong or where we need to change. He meets us in our circumstances because he has something to impart that can change our life. And so he says, let's go out. And what I want to highlight here is Peter's response. Peter's response, he says, verse 5, he said, Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all night and didn't catch a thing.
Yeah.
There are some words that I caught there this morning as we're just going through this chapter.
Yeah.
And the first word was, we worked hard.
Yeah.
This wasn't a leisure out fishing experience.
Yes.
They worked hard.
Yeah. So and you know what? It kind of points, because that was his livelihood.
Yes, it was.
And something was failing. His business was not doing good, and he was working really hard, and he was struggling. They were working hard. It says exhaustingly. That's what mine says.
I think it's important to understand that's often the natural tendency.
Yeah.
When something's not working,
yeah,
we just try harder.
Pull up your socks.
And there's people around you that'll say, pull up your socks. It's just keep on going.
Yes.
And we work hard. But the reality is, when we work hard at something that's not working, we're not going to go anywhere. And that's with our faith. That's with things in life. That's with business. That's with addiction. That's with a negative mindset. That's with things that are pressuring us.
Yes.
When things fall around us. When we just work hard because it's hard, it doesn't do anything.
And we're trying to overcome that struggle.
Absolutely. So he says in verse 5, we worked hard all night.
Yeah, fished all night.
And then he says this, and I'm glad it doesn't stop there because it expands to it. He says, and didn't catch a thing.
Yeah.
Didn't catch a thing.
We've been there.
I wrote down something that I think it's important for us to talk about and just highlight is, have you ever felt like that?
Yeah.
Where you have pulled up your socks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's a negative mindset. Maybe it's relationship issues. Maybe it was how you were raised, or possibly your church experience, or anything traumatic in your life that has had a major effect on how you think and how you live. It has stopped you in your progress. And sometimes we may think it hasn't stopped us, but if we look at our life, we keep going around that same curve, the same cycle, the same cycle.
Yes.
And so working hard, and I know we've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there multiple times in my life, because so much of what I do brings me value. And when I don't get a certain output or input, then I start circling again, and I'm learning. But here he was. He had fished all night, and they hadn't caught a thing.
Wow.
It was like, in one sense, like Peter was like, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Felt like that. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
I remember walking through, pacing the floor of a house years ago. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
I tried. I worked hard.
Yes.
I adjusted. I put in the effort, and every time I would say, tomorrow I'll do better. Now I just have to do better. I would hit the reset button, but the reset button would just bring me back to the beginning of my rabbit trail or my Ferris wheel, trying harder. To the point where, folks, I got to the point where I got so disappointed, so discouraged, so fed up with all this effort I was putting into, because I was doing what the church was telling me to. I was doing what people were telling me to do. And I just felt empty and hopeless. Exhausted.
Yeah.
Almost, I think we could say Peter was exhausted.
At the end of himself.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
I'm naturally, this is being honest.
Yeah.
I'm naturally see things negative. I naturally see them. So I've lived with discouragement. I've lived with disappointment. I've lived with hurt. When I say lived, it become a part of my identity. Because I felt that's all was offered to me. So I lived with discouragement, disappointment. I lived with hurt. I lived with despair. I lived in hopelessness. And I stayed a victim wherever I went. It was so a part of my life, folks, that wherever I went, I was expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
And when you're expecting something to happen, you're looking for something.
Yes.
And when you're looking for something, you will find it. And so when I found it, it would affirm me. See, that's right. And I would be hopeless. Yeah. I would be discouraged. I would be disappointed. I'm a failure. And many times we've had this conversation years ago that when I die, my tombstone say he only could get so far and he failed.
Yeah. And you know what? That cycle has been broken,
Yes.
and it's still being broken.
Absolutely.
But in saying that, honey, I want us to back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Because in chapter 4, just preceding this, so this is the day before, it was church. There was church going on, and there was stuff going down in there.
Yeah.
And right after church, Jesus heads to Peter's house. This is the same Peter. He's at Peter's house.
This is before he was fishing all night.
This is before he's still trying his hardest to overcome, getting some fish.
Yeah.
Something happens at his house. Jesus heals his mother-in-law. And then all of a sudden, there are these crowds. There's a full-on party going on.
Once people heard that Peter's mother-in-law just got healed.
Full-on party. Everybody's coming to Peter's house because they're hearing what Jesus can do. Yeah. Jesus is bringing breakthrough.
Yes.
And so every person that shows up at Peter's house is finding...
This is good. This is good.
They're finding breakthrough.
Yeah.
Jesus is freeing people from demonic oppression, just that torment in the mind. They're getting healed from diseases and sickness. And every person who showed up got their breakthrough. Peter is seeing this, and I'm wondering what's going through his mind. Everybody's getting breakthrough but me. My business is failing. I'm working my butt off. I'm getting nowhere. I can't provide for my family. Everyone's getting breakthrough but me. Do we feel like that sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're seeing that person's getting breakthrough.
They get an answer to prayer. They get victory. They have financial breakthrough. Everything comes together for them. Here I am fishing all night and I've caught a thing.
Yeah, and I'm
Where's
thinking,
my breakthrough?
Yes.
When is it my turn? I remember having that conversation.
Yes.
When is it my turn?
Yes.
When is it my turn?
Yes. And I think maybe Peter, seeing everybody's breakthrough, he's like, I've got to pull up my socks and I'm going to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going out all night and I'm going to see if I can overcome this obstacle.
And what happened here in this passage of scripture, it's powerful.
Yes.
Because I want to tell you something before we go into key number 1, and it's not going to take long because we're building towards it. Just be patient, we're building to it. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Jesus stepped into Peter's reality.
Yes.
Peter said, I've worked all night.
Yeah.
I've strived. I've reset. I've redone this, and it's not working.
Yeah.
And Jesus says, I want you to go a little deeper. And I want you to throw your net in again.
Do it.
And he says, possible. I've been doing it all night. But Jesus met him. Jesus got in the boat with him. And that, I think, is one of the most important things that we need to understand. Jesus does not involve himself from the outside. He gets into our reality.
Yes, he does.
And not to point out anything wrong, but to bring some keys for our breakthrough in our life right where we're at.
And you know what? I love that, honey. Sometimes we love chapter 4 where we're seeing breakthrough for everybody. That's where we want to live. That's a wow moment. But you know what? If we don't lay the right foundation,
that's right.
We can have that instant miracle. We can have that $1 million that we would just love. Don't we all want that? Just that instant breakthrough. 3 years later, we're homeless. Why? Because the foundation wasn't laid.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
didn't deal with the stuff inside, rebuilding that foundation that we can walk in that breakthrough.
And that is a continual, ongoing thing in our life.
There's something.
So the hope in us here now is, so Jesus met him in a circumstance. I'm going to tell you, you're never alone. You're never alone. He's going to walk you through. You have to understand, he's there. So in verse 5 it says, Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. And then comes these words, but if you say so. But if you say so. Peter came to a place in his circumstances that what Jesus spoke to him sparked hope.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes is a spark. Key number 1 to overcoming the obstacles or the things that life throws at you is you have to first, key number 1 is believe that it's possible.
How do we do that, babe?
I want to tell you we have to believe that it's possible. Because if we don't believe something, we will never invest in it. We will never reassign ourselves. We'll never reset and do something different. If we don't think it's going to work, we're not going to try it. And Peter had been given hope. Key number one to overcoming. It's simple, but I'm telling you folks, it's profound. You got to believe it's possible. Your breakthrough is yours.
Yes. And
You
it's
got
a
to believe
journey.
It is a journey. It's not an overnight quick fix. It's a journey. And one thing I want to say is, in this key of believing that it's possible, yes, it's a simple thing, but listen to it. Listen to it. I believe it is possible. When I began to believe that it was possible, it changes my perspective. For so long, folks, for so long, I lived with discouragement. I lived with disappointment. I lived with hopelessness. I lived with the fact that I'm always going to fail. Everything I'm going to do will go for a little while and fall apart. I lived with that. It was a part of my identity. I believed it. But the moment God's words began to speak to me, and they spoke to me for years, but I didn't believe it. But when I believed it, all of a sudden, like Peter, there was a hope that sparked. And it changed my journey. So often I was discouraged. I would look at other people's breakthrough. I would look at other people's freedom. I would look at other people, they got their miracle. And why do they always get what they ask for? How come all these different things are happening and not me? But I realized something. Breakthrough is a process. And I'm in a process. I may not be where they are, but I'm moving towards what they're experiencing. And when I understood that, all of a sudden, the pressure came off. I'm taking a Greek course, and I want to be quick with this because there's a few more things that we integrate. And there's other people that are much further ahead than me in my course. They are. They can read, they can write, and mine's really weak. And there's a lot of foundational stuff that I'm building. And sometimes I can find myself being discouraged because I'll never get there. That's just too much. But then I remind myself I'm in process. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. And then I can release, and then I can enjoy the building part. Because the foundation is so important. And when I can begin to look at it that way, I can celebrate with somebody else when they have their victory because I know I'm on my way. Because I'm building something. So I don't have to be there.
Yes, exactly.
I need to be where I am. Building that as I go. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, honey. It does. So it's like to lay the right foundation for your breakthrough. Number one is to believe it's possible. And there's some things that we have to take out of our foundation. What we've lived by is that victim mentality. Which is always, they can have it, I can't. My circumstances just don't allow me to overcome. That is hogwash. That is a victim mentality, and it has to be removed. And so our breakthrough begins inside.
That's right.
Our breakthrough begins inside, not with circumstances. It begins inside.
We've lived there. I've been there. It's just me. It's my last name. It's where I came from, what I've done. I can't have breakthrough. I can't have that stuff. Every time. And it became my identity. And when something, listen to this, folks, when something becomes your identity, it becomes a part of who you are. And you will always find evidence for that wherever you go. It's important that we need to see things correctly in order to make the adjustments in our life. Overcoming will always take action on our part. It's not about striving, but about action. Peter could have said, no, I'm done. But he shifted his thinking.
So just to reiterate, some of us want our breakthrough now. We want the miracle now. We want the financial provision now. And God is actually wanting to lay a new foundation inside of us. Because we can get the instant, but it's not going to change how we think and how we believe inside. That's where he wants to start.
Our belief system is the biggest influencer.
Powerful. It's so
what
powerful.
We believe, our life will always shape after. And so I've had to start to rethink how I believe. And it's as simple as taking that trip to Arizona.
Yeah.
We took a trip to Arizona. We brought a car, brought it down to our place in Arizona, and that trip was nothing but casualty after casualty after casualty.
Casualty. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bumps.
I was the casualty. Bumps, engine problems, flat tires, windshield wiper
huge.
problems. It was unbelievable.
It was crazy.
It all stacked up.
Yes.
And I began to affirm what I believed in my life. See, it's just me. It's going to happen to me. And I remember we pulled on the side of the road to change our tire, and I looked in the car and I said, honey, it's no longer going to be this morning. We are going to rise above this kind of stuff. And we started asking questions. Why am I feeling this way? Why is that my immediate reaction? When something goes wrong, I immediately take it personally and say it's against my character, against who I am.
Yeah.
And as we began to ask those questions, I began to remind myself that's not who I am. God says I'm an overcomer, and
Yes.
I want to start believing I'm an overcomer. So then I want to start putting the right things in my mind so that I can begin to make the adjustments. And then I started building something from that point on,
Yes.
to the point we had something going wrong, something going wrong, something
Yeah.
going wrong, where
Yeah.
I began to look forward to what God was going to do
Yes.
and how we're going to find our way through this hurdle.
Yes.
And it was
And-
asking the tough
And
questions.
the breakthrough was coming in you.
It was coming from the
Because
inside.
stuff kept coming on the outside, but
Oh,
the
I
breakthrough
can tell you, it
was
just
having,
kept coming and coming and coming and coming.
Yes.
I was ready to turn around and just go
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
if we didn't have engine problems.
Yeah. So let's see what happens to Peter.
Yes.
Let's see
it's
what happens
interesting what
here.
happens to Peter. He says, he worked all night, but if you say so,
Yeah.
I will let the nets down again.
And he did.
And he did.
Yeah.
That's what his part. He said, okay, there was hope. I will do it again.
Yeah.
And he did it. And verse 6 tells us the breakthrough that
Yeah.
came to him. And this time their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear.
Yeah.
And a shout out for help brought their partners in other boats, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking.
Overwhelming breakthrough for Peter right there.
Yep.
Jesus, and you know what? God is the God of breakthrough. He is breakthrough.
Yes, he is.
And he showed Peter, I can provide for you in a moment.
Yes.
But how does Peter respond? Shows the struggle he was having inside.
Right.
Peter responds to Jesus almost like, get away from me. I do not deserve this breakthrough. I'm a failure. I have tried hard. I can't, and
Yes.
I've done so many things wrong. That's our response sometimes when God just like brings the breakthrough right
Yeah.
now. And then Jesus invites him on a journey to break through inside. I can give you
What he did?
Yeah.
You know what he did?
Yeah.
He got him to start seeing the situation from the side of hope.
Yeah.
We've got to,
Yes.
with every negative, listen to this. This is another thing that hit me this morning as I was just sitting and thinking and pondering.
Yes.
With every negative, there's always an opposite. There's always a positive. And when we focus on the negative, that's all we see.
Yeah.
And so I want to encourage you,
Yeah.
ask yourself the question,
Yeah.
am I seeing the full picture?
Yeah.
Is this really true? Is this really true? How would I reword that different right now? How would I reword that different on an avenue of victory rather than defeat? How would that affect you? And as you build that into your life, you will begin to recognize that you're going to start believing things about you that you never believed before.
Yeah.
I can see myself addiction free. I can see myself building in relationships, not always falling apart from relationships. I can see myself overcoming these things because inside I'm an overcomer. And I want to encourage you, it is a process.
Yeah. And I feel
You're
like
building information and putting the truth inside of you,
Yes.
and it's coming alive.
yes. Because when God brought that breakthrough, when Jesus brought that breakthrough to Peter, it was to reveal I am breakthrough.
Yes.
But I want to take you on a journey because I want to relay that foundation in
Yeah,
you,
that's
Peter.
right.
He says, follow me. I'm actually going to change you from the inside.
Yes.
Because we can bring change, but we need to be the change.
That is an important part.
And that's
Sometimes we try
yeah,
to bring change.
that's hard work.
And when we put pressure on people, we put
Yes.
pressure on ourselves. We got to bring it. We got to tell them. We got to do this. We got to, and we put
Yes.
pressure and pressure.
Yes.
But when we be the change.
Yes.
It's a natural thing that overflows.
Yes.
And I believe that what God has got in you, He is going to start releasing over you, so that you will have testimony after testimony after testimony of breakthrough and overcoming power as you build on this foundation of truth.
And He's inviting the same thing for us.
Yes.
Come on a journey. And for some of you, it's just the beginning of a journey for breakthrough inside.
Absolutely.
But key number one, it is possible. We are going to have to lay down, I don't deserve it, that victim mentality.
Absolutely.
That's going to have to go. And Jesus says, let the journey begin.
If Peter did not believe, he just walked away in discouragement. We want to ignite belief in you.
Yes.
Because when we believe it is possible, that is the first key of unlocking the door that's been holding us back.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, it is in you.
Yes.
It is possible.
Jesus.
God believes in you, and He will meet you in whatever situation you're currently in. He's going to show up in your life to help you navigate through what needs to be navigated. And I want to encourage you, build on believing what He says that is possible for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've been a little bit longer. I would encourage you that if you've found anything in any of these things, sometimes you may want to go back, re-listen to it again. We encourage you to do that. I know we're not filling you with all the information. We want to give you tidbits of stuff that you can start running on your own and saying, I want to believe it's possible. Yes, He says I'm an overcomer. Yes, the situation is not impossible. Yes, I can push through this. I believe it is possible is key number one.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Again, there's things on our website, on our YouTube channel, Facebook.
Yes.
And we encourage you, if this has been helpful in any way, why don't you hit the share button and just allow other people to have this experience too.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We'll see you Wednesday at 7:30.
Can't wait.
For key number 2.
Key number 2. Love you guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.